Welcome to today's episode of the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It is Friday, March 13th. Last month was also Friday the 13th. That's the miracle of February. It screws up everything else in the calendar. Bob Iger stepped in on March 13th as Disney's CEO back in 2005.
Over 20 years ago.
Over 20 years ago. Today we are talking about The Artful Dodger, which is a Hulu Disney series. It's an Australian historical heist drama. It's got 3 creators. That's a little strange. It's a sequel to Charles Dickens.
It's like Tehran. Tehran, I think, had 3 creators too.
Okay, so I guess it's just these foreign shows. They decide to have a lot of creators. A lot of people want to have their name on the show's development. So yeah, Charles Dickens Oliver Twist. It's a sequel to that. It stars Ferb and David Thewlis. That's 2 English leads that they decided to bring over. But they have a big Australian cast. Like most of the people I was clicking on, I saw also were in Home and Away, which is like the Law and Order of Australia. Anyway, so Thomas Brodie-Sangster, he is the main character. He plays Jack Dawkins. He is the Artful Dodger.
Yep, the title.
And you've seen him in a ton of stuff, right?
Yes.
You've seen him in so much. In fact, I want to see if I give you the character's name, if you would be able to tell me what he was in.
Okay, we'll see.
I think you're going to do terribly at this because
I usually do.
Let's just start it. Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney? I didn't
Mhm.
even know he played him.
Well,
Now
he
I
did
know.
in Nowhere Boy, 2009. And you know who played John Lennon in that?
No.
Aaron Taylor Johnson. That's the only 2 I remember. Okay, young Hitler.
Young Hitler?
Yes.
Jeez,
Okay, I'll give you
Jojo Rabbit?
Hitler, the Rise of Evil. This was in 2003. You know that meme where Hitler's freaking out in the bunker?
Yeah.
That's not this. That was Downfall.
That was Downfall.
that
Yeah,
was the year later.
2004, I think.
Yeah. So they did like 2 back-to-back Hitler documentaries. And then Newt. Newt is one of his most famous roles.
Newt?
Newt. N-E-W-T.
Nanny McPhee?
No, I should have included a Nanny McPhee one. No, this is Maze Runner. He played Newt, I think, in like 3 of the movies.
Yeah.
And there was also a giant hiatus in that thing when one of the main characters got hurt, right?
Yeah, I remember I only ever saw the first one, but I was really glad with the director because he said that they weren't going to split the last movie into 2 parts. And so many
Same
movies
director
were
as
doing
this.
it. Really?
No. Ferb Fletcher. I'll give you an easy
I
one.
mean, obviously Phineas and Ferb.
Where you were introduced to him, I would assume.
Yeah, and the sad thing is that I think that Thomas Brodie-Sangster is great as Jack Dawkins, but my only problem with his performance is that it took him away from doing the revival of Phineas and Ferb when it came back.
I don't think that was the thing. I think in the 2020, like early 2020, before this was even the thought on someone's mind, that's when he stepped out. I think he was like, I'm done with this character. Someone else can take over for me.
I wish that he had his 1 line per episode, which is usually what he was given in the original series. I am very, very sad that Thomas Brodie-Sangster is not Ferb, the guy from Game of Thrones. I get it. He's 35. He's way more famous than he was 17 years ago, and he doesn't want to do 1 line per episode anymore, but just the knowledge that it wasn't him was a huge letdown.
Yeah, they even could have taken from his previous, all the background stuff that he had. Benny Watts.
Benny Watts.
This is probably my favorite version of seeing him in something because it was completely a surprise when I saw it.
It wasn't Game of Thrones, was it?
No, Benny Watts was Queen's Gambit. And he just shows up with a cowboy hat and somehow becomes her tutor.
Yeah.
And then Whitey Wynn. This would be a close second for me when I saw Whitey Wynn in Godless.
Godless.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot that he was
deputy in that.
Yes.
He has a really cool arc. And then Jojen Reed.
Is that Game of Thrones?
Yeah, that one's Game of Thrones. He has a sister. He's hanging out with Bran. He's only there for like 1 or 2 seasons. But that was at the first time when I was like, this guy doesn't age. Because that was, 2016? And
Yeah.
I remember seeing him like that Paul McCartney role was 2009. So one of the things is he just ages slowly. I thought you were going to say your main complaint about him being in this role is that his romantic interest lead. Because they call it a historical heist drama, but it also feels like a romance.
Oh, it absolutely is.
So, but that's played by Maya Mitchell.
Uh-huh.
And there's been a few people who pointed out they look kind of similar. Like almost for the casting wise, it's a little awkward. She's from the Fosters, Teen Beach Movie.
Yeah, I mean, I know her from the Teen Beach Movie films. I think she was dating Rudy Mancuso at one point also.
Wow, okay, more than I know. She kind of plays her, so she wants to be a doctor, and then I think in the second season she becomes a doctor.
Yeah, right. The family allows her to.
She's also the daughter of the governor of where it takes place, so it's kind of an Aladdin-ish story where he's a street urchin / doctor. When doctors weren't as liked, I guess. guess. So he can still be a criminal and a doctor at the same time, but he's
Right.
vying for her hand.
In the first season, especially towards the end of the first season, they start to have a thing. But originally,
I think it's hinted at the entire time.
But
right?
originally, in the first like 4 episodes or so, she's just helping him with surgeries, and then in season 2, she finally gets that nursing role.
You're saying it's not steamy at all in the first few episodes.
I'm saying that it becomes more clear that they're a thing later on.
Yeah, it was the most streamed Disney Australian original series to date. It did take a while for it to get renewed, but there was a writer's strike in the middle and the actors had stuff that they were doing. So it was a little bit of a surprise that they got a season 2. Since season 1, did season 1 end? It did end on a cliffhanger, yes?
Yeah, he shows up in jail because Captain Gaines is shot, and then it's framed like Jack Dawkins was the one that did it.
Right. And for those people who are like, well, Oliver Twist is this like gloomy Victorian London atmosphere. No, this is
completely different. When they're showing Australia or in the 1850s, this is very bright. It also like all the like buildings.
Yeah, if you've been, there's kangaroos jumping around and they're like fighting off serial killers and
clothes.
stuff. Yeah, they're still pickpockets. I mean, and Fagin is there. Fagin has followed Jack almost to Australia, and now there's still like a father-son dynamic, but I guess he's kind of in his redemption arc.
And I want to point out that I don't actually know a lot about Oliver Twist. I never saw the film,
but you know the
play.
line, like, can I have some more of that
yeah,
thing?
right. I know like the big things about him, but I did like never read the book. So really, this was kind of my introduction to the Artful Dodger.
You also don't need to because they completely retcon Oliver Twist in the first season by making him just a fat bastard.
He
like
shows up, in episodes 7 and 8.
He's an asshole. He's so it completely changes. You're like, it wasn't a poor kid going up and asking for more soup. He was on his like 5th helping. This guy is like such a snob.
He doesn't show up in the second season. I really did like how they included him in the first season.
Some people liked it, some people
But
didn't.
also, David Thewlis, it seems like he always enjoys playing these smarmy, intelligent, manipulative, slightly villainous characters. Like, if you think about it, Sherlock and Daughter, even though he's Sherlock Holmes.
Right, but Sherlock Holmes in that was so much more stuffy, right? Like he wasn't as energetic or anything. It was up to Blue Hunt or whoever was playing his daughter.
But when it came to kind of his morals, they seemed a little bit ambiguous, even though he was slightly on the good side there. Wonder Woman and also Warhorse.
You mean when he was like Ares, the god?
Whenever he always likes to do these things, because Sherlock and Daughter's 1896, Warhorse 1912, Wonder Woman 1918, here 1850s. He always likes to like take roles that are in this time period specifically.
He looks like he's having fun with it here. He likes.
Oh yeah.
He almost reminds me of Frank Gallagher from Shameless.
Shameless, yeah. No, there's even a storyline that reminded me.
I think that he's a little bit more trustworthy than Frank. Like Frank continually, as soon as you gave him any form of responsibility, would betray you.
I don't know.
Fagin saves Jack's ass a couple times.
Yes, but he only saves Jax. And in fact, that actually reminded me a little bit.
He gets him in trouble, sure.
Of Guardians of the Galaxy, too. If you remember Star-Lord, I forgot what
his relationship with, the guy with the whistle.
Very similar to them as well. But Fagin is like going to rip off anyone, any chance that he gets.
But he also, like, if the kid rips him off, he's actually proud of that kid for doing so. He doesn't get mad at him. So he does have like a moral conscience.
For the people in his group, Pootie and Flashbang, who are
how quickly is he able to collect it or accrue this group in the first season? Because in the first few episodes, I remember he is like, he's pretending to be a demented doctor who had like been kicked by a mule in the head. But then after a little while, he went off and had his own storyline where he collected a group of felons and they were like going around picking people off. And
as much as Jack Dawkins doesn't want to be part of his group, there are times within the first 2 seasons that he just does help.
He's guilt tripped.
Yeah.
For a long time. And also there's this guy Gaines in the first season that's like the inspector around that area who hates Jack and is just hunting him down. That's played by who again?
It's played by the guy from Mr. In-Between, also Charles Manson and
yes, he's played Charles Manson in 2 things.
I never know
and
his
Justified.
Name. Yeah, he was in Justified. He was Dickie Bennett, I believe.
But he played a pretty decent villain, would you say?
Yeah, no, in the first season, definitely. He's replaced, though, by Henry Boxer.
Well, explain what happens to the first villain first, because he ends up dying. He's shot by one of the crew of Fagin's,
Rosie, I believe, is where her name was.
And then Jack takes the heat for that. So he's about to get hanged in the first episode of this second season. And that's where we we can begin.
And that led me
The first
right.
episode's called Hangman.
Yes, led me right into my pros because there were a couple highlights this season, and one of my favorite parts was the first 10 minutes. It was kind of like the beginning of a Guy Ritchie film, or I felt like there was even a dash of Death Note.
Good direction.
Yes, do you remember like the first scene of Sherlock season 3?
No, I don't remember them episode by
Well,
episode
if you
like you do.
remember the end of and spoilers for Sherlock, but the season 2 finale was that he was still alive, and they were showing you a possibility of how he ended up
Oh,
surviving.
okay. So yeah, no,
Mhm.
it's the famous meme of him jumping off the thing, and
Yeah.
then all the different
Having, like,
versions
the
of him
bungee cord and things like that.
surviving.
It was,
Yes,
this reminded me very much of that because it starts off on the day of
it's a
Dr.
fake
Jack
out, is what you're
Dawkins.
saying.
Yes, it starts off on the day of Dr. Jack Dawkins' execution. They already have the noose set up. He has a bag over his head. There's a carriage. People are lining up to see the sight. Lady Belle is freaking out because she's not wanting the execution to happen. And the way that they did it, they like show it later on. But what happened was there was a fight that broke out in front of the carriage. It stopped, and that was when they ended up. Fagin, he saves Jack because he opens up the back, takes Jack out, puts a person that was set for death row on that day in his place.
Okay.
And then when they hang him, Belle is freaking out. She takes off the hood, realizes
So he didn't.
it's not.
Fagin was saving the day, but he didn't decide to tell one person because she wanted it to seem real. I
Yes.
guess to the town.
Well, yeah, because the initial plan after Fagin saved him was for him to get to the docks, basically what he should have done at the end of season 1, and
So
leave
you're
for
against
good.
Jack ending up with Belle. You want Jack to just leave town.
Well, what we know, at least what Fagin says to Jack when they take him out of the wagon, because Jack's like, I need to go and see Belle. He's like, no, she didn't write. She didn't.
No, I'm
like
asking
saying-"
personally. I know that there's a big fandom of people who want Jack and Belle to get together. I'm asking, did you, by the end of season 1, think it would have been a smarter decision for him just to leave rather than go back and see whether or not Belle was recovering from a surgery he had already
I
done?
think it would have been smarter for him to leave, and I know that I'm probably in the minority, but I felt like the romance that happened between them happened kind of fast in the first season and a tiny bit out of nowhere. And I think that would have just been smarter for him to leave because
I don't think it's fair to say it happened out of nowhere because from the very beginning, he's saving her life.
Parents.
Yeah.
That's the main thing that is like stopping them from being together right away anyways. And it seems like if he's going to have a good life, he probably should have gone on the docks. Anyways, we're seeing it play out though because he's running to the docks in like the first 10 minutes, but gets stopped by our introduction to Henry Boxer. He ends up tripping him before he gets to the place.
So where Gaines was the inspector last season, he was the bad guy who was chasing down Jack. This guy is replacing that, and he's also trying to replace Jack as far as Belle's love interest.
Yeah.
And so what did you think of Boxer? Were you a fan? Could you predict that he would be less of a bad guy than Gaines was and more of like a kind of a middle tier? Because by the end of the season, and we'll get there, he's stopping a serial killer.
I would have felt like it would be kind of pointless for them to have introduced Henry Boxer and just given us a replica of who Captain Gaines was. I did like how he was more just an actual cop. He reminded me a lot of Cillian Murphy's version or the cop of In Time, where it's like that guy isn't necessarily a bad guy, but he's someone that you don't want to see capture the protagonist being the Artful Dodger and Belle.
Okay.
And Fagin. And so, yeah, no, he does end up having like a serial killer arc. But the reason
He
why
doesn't. He's not the serial killer.
he's trying to capture a serial killer.
But
and
does he get more distracted by that than trying to catch Jack Dawkins for being evil or something? Like Jack, he should have been hanged. He gets caught there. Do they immediately say, we're going to put you back on the noose? Or do they say, all right, well, you got away once, so we'll let you go back to doctoring?
So the reason that he was saved is because the hospitals are overflowed. And he is a good doctor.
Overflowing, yeah.
We see him do a ton of surgeries in the first and second season. And
Right.
Sneed comes to his defense and is like, you know what? It would be way more beneficial for him to be here than for him to get hanged because I need more people to actually help me.
So let's talk about this a little bit. So this show likes to present itself as like an alternative history, but all their cases, this is what James McNamara, the showrunner, says. All of our cases are taken from the 1850s as surgical reports, right?
Yeah.
Hollywood Reporter called it a PG-ish version of the Nick. than anything substantively Dickensian.
They have in that they have like the Nick, all the people watching as they're doing
Yeah,
surgeries in
they
front of
film
them.
it at a psychiatric hospital
Right.
from like the 19 or 1890s or something. So that's all true, and they even the bodies they use and stuff, they try to make that part realistic. My issue is that it feels a little bit more like a PBS show than anything that we see in like the Pit these days, that we see in the Nick. Like they like to they keep on presenting it and feels like in the interviews as if this is a medical show,
Uh-huh.
but this isn't even as close as like what House would get to.
This is definitely not the best medical show that there is, but I do like the PBS feel to it because I feel like it can actually reach a broader audience that
Right.
way.
No, and it did in the first season. My thing though is like they say that they focused in on the 1850s as far as their medical reporting, but that is so not true. They are lying. The way that they talk about this stuff, they make Belle seem like she would be the best doctor of her time ever. Like
Yeah.
the inventions she's coming up with, the stuff like taking in germ theory. Again, this is supposed to be 1850s. Germ theory wasn't even like a big deal until 1867 and afterwards with Joseph Lister. We talked about it in Death by Lightning, and she was coming up with the carbonic acid being used to like make sure that wounds were not going to get infected and things like that. 1861 is actually when germ theory came about. So they took it a few years earlier, but the carbonic acid stuff was kind of annoying to see in that first few episodes. Then later on, when she actually became a doctor, like 1890 is when the first lady doctor became. That's how that's written in my
But
notes.
when it comes to accuracy, like I can give the show a pass for it. The thing that I really don't like, though, and I know that they probably didn't actually wear them during that times, is the gloves. Because I feel like with the type of surgeries that they're doing, infection would be like a huge thing, and having to see them use their bare hands and gain organs all over them.
But that's what they want. That's what, like, again, that's what they want to show you because they say it's visceral, it's gross. And to me, I'm like, if it's really gross and you have a cholera outbreak in season 2 that ends it and no one's shitting or vomiting in front of like
Oh no,
the mom
no, no,
has
no, no, no. Here's
sickness.
the thing. No, no, no. Like in terms of the cholera, yeah, because you're talking about the end of the season. That stuff wasn't nearly as bad as some of the things that they show. The grossest scene by far in episode 6, aptly titled "Belly Button," is that
They've talked about
Darius.
this and I was curious why it's so gross.
Yeah, Darius, he's a villain that was also in the first season. Looked a lot like one of the Antidonas people. He urinates through his belly button, but there was a kidney stone in there. So there's a part in the episode where Belle has to dig her fingernail into the belly button, which is again where he urinates
She made
from.
the showrunner, I think, do it first, or maybe
Yeah,
one of the other actors because she was so grossed out by it.
yeah, and she has to like dig it out, and then you see it. That was disgusting.
All
So
right.
I mean, the show definitely does get into
I'm
like
glad
the
you pushed
grossness
back
that you
on it
want.
because this episodes I saw, and one of those was the finale, is this mom coming in. She says she has cholera. She says that she's drank really bad water, and she just goes to this really clean room, and all we see is she gets a little pale, and then she like brightens up after
Yeah.
they give her a saline solution. What they did do was they took the cholera outbreak from the 1850s in London, and they instead moved it into Australia. And that was cool because the main doctor there who solved that was named Jon Snow.
Oh, Kit Harington should show up. I think that Daniel Ings would play like a good character in this role. I just don't know, or good character in this show. I just don't know what role he would play. But also
Huh.
some other dark parts about it. One of the highlights I had here, episode 7, when they visit Pubside, when they figure out what kind of caused this outbreak,
Yes.
why so many people are being sick, is because the
Was it like a
governor.
well?
Yeah, it was
This
water
follows
from
the
a pump.
Jon Snow thing
Yeah,
pretty accurately, I
because the
guess.
governor had opened up the sewers again, and therefore some of the sewage ended up getting in the pubs well, and you just see a ton of dead bodies. There was even a little girl that had her parents dead inside, and I thought that in terms of how sad the show could get, it was a lot darker in that scene, and I think in the season overall, I thought that that was one of the highlights of the episode. And also, one of the things about this season is episode 3 3, there's a character named Phineas. Now, I don't know if Phineas was in the Charles Dickens book
I believe so.
or anything like that, but
He's just a
obviously
love interest to the sister, yes,
right,
no?
to Fanny in the first 3
And
episodes.
Fanny has a bigger expanded role
Yes,
as Belle's sister.
yes, she actually is trying to help Fagin this season, but I think probably my favorite part of the season is Phineas' death scene, because it seems like they're going to be a real thing for the first couple episodes, but she brings him into this separate room. She has a clay machine that's kind of like a bike. I'm assuming that that's how they made these, like,
You say
pottery things.
clay machine?
Yeah.
Oh, so it, like, spins the thing.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly,
alright.
and she has to use her feet to power it, and right when Phineas is about to kiss Fanny, he asks, she's like, "Go ahead." His hair gets caught in the spin thing, and his face just smashes into the clay, and he ends up dying that way.
So he suffocates to death?
No, it was from the
Oh, he
force
just
of
smacked.
impact.
Alright.
Yeah,
He
and
gets a
that's
concussion.
and so that was probably my favorite scene, not only because they killed off Phineas, but also his name was just a reference to Phineas and Ferb.
And also, she's not, like, then traumatized, right?
No,
Because
she's not. In fact, it's real.
she's yeah.
What really is happening is Fagin is trying to steal during this house party, and he sees this happen, so he uses that as
Steal from their
leverage.
family.
Yes, he uses that as leverage. He says, "I'll get rid of the body for you if you start helping me with this land deed storyline." That was so crazy, I had a hard time following it. But yes, she does end up helping Fagin in this season as well. But those were my highlights. The beginning to season 2, episode 7, with how sad it was seeing all the dead bodies, and then Phineas.
So what about this Uriah Heep person? Because that ends up being one of the main villains. He teams up with the priest that you were talking about earlier. He's
There
from
is a-
David Copperfield, that story of Charles Dickens, and they moved him over into this one, played by Benedict Hardy from Upgrade, Wolfman, The Invisible Man. He's used to playing in thrillers, and was he like a Peaky Blinders villain or something when he was going after Fagin? But because it seemed like in the last episode when Fagin fakes his death, this guy was only interested in seeing him dead before
Yeah.
he was able to walk away.
Yeah, no, I mean,
So what was like his whole deal
there was this big. It was actually the land storyline that I was just
that
talking.
you don't want to talk about? Yeah,
It was so crazy because it started off with Fagin selling this piece of non-existent land.
that happened back in the day. Yeah.
Initially to Dickie, the new character, the governor's brother,
So
who
he
showed up
scammed
this season.
someone.
Right, and then Dickie ended up using 20,000 pounds that didn't belong to him, but belonged to the East India Company, which was originally used to purchase saltpeter, a compound in gunpowder. So then that storyline changes completely into the fact that Fagin says that he can find saltpeter, but really he doesn't have any because it was just more of a scam. And it turns into this gigantic thing. Like, it took up so much of the season, and after a while it just got so ludicrous with all the
Even
stuff
with
happening.
David Thewlis,
Yeah.
he couldn't pull off how crazy this guy.
I was just like, yeah, because there's like even times where they're like in the 5th episode having a debate with like a ton of people in this bar, and they're talking about how the Australia thing, how
That's where they are.
there's a ton of ice, but the land that he was talking about that he got the 20,000 pound for, it's uninhabitable.
Right. So this sounds exactly like the What the Fuck 101 from College Humor, where they were explaining how there was this guy, I forgot what his name was, but he would sell people on these faraway Caribbean island type
Yeah.
deals, being like, this is an amazing place to go. They would send ships of people there. They would immediately die off because it was not inhabitable. And so maybe this place didn't even exist that Fagin's trying to sell.
Yeah, and,
but,
and
like,
you know, it doesn't. And Fagin like is about to be kind of called out for it, but then Ludwig, who was also someone that was helping Darius with this deal when they were having the debate in the pub, turns out to be an imposter. I mean, it was just like the most crazy thing.
So in 8 episodes, you have all of that. Then you have the serial killer. And this was the craziest turn that I learned about, was that the doctor from the first season,
Yes.
who everybody was making fun of for being old and having like lost a step, who actually does help Jack save Belle's life because he explains the surgery that he needs to do in order to tie up whatever's going on
Yeah.
inside her. And that guy, it turns out, I'm seeing him stab one of the other doctors
Sneed,
at the
yeah.
end and start to perform surgery on him. And this boxer fella, who's supposed to be one of the villains that you've already mentioned, ends up saving his life.
Yeah, well, what happened was Henry Boxer, especially for the latter half of the season, because he thinks that it's Jack Dawkins who's been killing these people,
Wow,
because these
okay.
bodies have been showing up all over the place. So I like how he had more of a reason to go after Jack Dawkins than I feel like Captain Gaines did in the first season, where it just seemed like Captain Gaines was out for Jack Dawkins man's head just kind of because.
Well, there's Jack the Ripper.
Right.
So maybe he thought he was like Jack the Ripper.
There's one night where Henry Boxer sees the serial killer kind of tracking him go into the hospital. So he was so sure that was Jack Dawkins, but he walks in and realizes that Jack Dawkins not only has an alibi, but is completely dry. And it was raining that night, so he realized that it had to be someone. But yes, in the finale, he goes underground, and that's where Alistair is. Alistair, we learned, has been killing people because his brother, I think it's revealed to Henry Boxer in the 7th episode, Alistair's brother has cancer.
Alistair started by saying, I think, that his wife or his daughter had died in front of him, and that broke him. And at the same time, he turned to the drinking. And then after he kind of sobered up, that's when he realized he wanted to like get vengeance at the same time as testing to treat his brother's cancer.
Yeah,
yes.
So that's why all these dead bodies have had this weird stitching to them and medicalness to them. But it was funny seeing Sneed get stabbed right in the stomach, because it was a little bit almost like Jon Snow at the end of season 5, where it was like, did I just see this correctly? Are they going to kill Sneed off?
Yeah, who's going to perform surgery on him? Because by the end, Belle is running after Jack, because the story ends with, let's go back to the Colrose storyline, probably the biggest villain of the season, because she's the one who's keeping Belle away from Jack. She doesn't want that relationship to exist, partially because of her own past.
Yes, and there were things that I was...
BoJack Horseman style.
That I was kind of a little bit annoyed by, because there were so many times this season where it seemed like Belle... There's even a part where her mom disowns her, but then Belle is kind of given permission in that way to go be with Jack.
Yeah, the dad's not the one who's causing... The governor himself is okay with this relationship.
Right.
But the mom is just so hamstrung on the idea that, like, she can't have her daughter end up the same way that she almost did.
But in episode 6, they were together. Like, they literally were going to live a life together. And then suddenly, because Belle learns that Fanny is part of Fagin's group, that ends up being a reason enough for her to leave Jack.
I read about this. So apparently Jack had been lying to her.
Yeah.
And those lies... when you're about to run off with someone and you already know that everybody's telling you that this guy's bad trouble, and then you find out that he has been lying to you, it's not crazy that she would be like, well, I'm going to have some second thoughts on this.
But then in episode 7, she's talking about how much she loves him and doesn't end up with Henry Boxer because of it. So that's what I mean when I was like, it just felt like they were kind of going back to the drawing board every single time.
Having seen the last episode, it was sappy as hell to see how they ended up together. However, the relationship of the back and forth, I can kind of get where it's coming from.
I was glad that they finally ended up together.
The ridiculousness, though, that because we find out why the mom is so against it until Jack saves her life and actually her daughter saves her life too with the IV tube. But what's her name? Not Fanny, not Belle. What's the mom's name? Jane?
Jane,
yes.
Yeah.
So Jane, she admits that Belle actually isn't her child.
Right.
And she actually had an affair with Uncle Dickie back in the day.
It was
no pun intended.
And Uncle Dickie is probably Belle's father.
This is very after party-ish.
But it turns out that the governor didn't really care, because he's always seen Belle as kind of like...
Right, the dad is just so okay with that. And even when
it was no. When it comes to the last episode, I do wish it was kind of better.
It's just so cheesy.
Right.
Like, I understand if you're a fan, but it's a very cheesy last episode, because Jack, at the same time, he's like, I'm out of here. At this point, I'm not going to end up with Belle, and I've saved the mom's life. And so he instantly finds a job
and joins the army,
and is about to join the army, and they're about to go to Rio, I think.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of the Friends finale, because Belle thinks that she's missed Jack and she's not going to be able to be with him because the ship has taken off, much like the airplane in the finale of Friends. But it turns out that Jack actually didn't get on the plane because he loved Belle too much. Why they couldn't have been together earlier this season and they waited
By plane, you mean boat, yeah.
I don't know.
The Friends thing, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And also Fagin, though, he ends up faking his death. This reminded me...
Well, Jack helps him. He gives him a concoction. And I like how they pointed out Romeo and Juliet, and they were like, just like her, just give me the same stuff that she took.
It reminded me of 24, because I know season 4 kind of did a similar thing. And also Shameless episode 3, where 2 thugs are coming after Frank, as we talked about. The 2 thugs here, Uriah and Darius, are coming after Fagin, but when they realize he's dead, they're like, that's it, we're leaving, it's done.
So it ends up disenchanted, buried. There's so many other instances.
Misfits the finale, because we see at the end that Fagin is actually still alive in the grave.
Yes, they bury him, and when he wakes up, he's like, God damn it, Jack, I didn't actually want to end up in a grave. So some people online were kind of being like, Fagin deserves this. He deserves to go out
He
this
does.
way.
No,
And
he honestly
it's
does.
crazy because all the times you've explained and all the times I've seen from the episodes I've seen, he's always been a sort of doing the good thing on if he's pressed to. But I guess all the episodes I missed were the ones where he was just being a complete scumbag.
I mean, you do have to realize that most this season he's been scamming people out of money and just trying to like get this deal through, which he knows is complete BS.
Right. So do you? But like, they're not going to kill him off, right? If they get up to
No.
season 4.
No, absolutely. Season 3, you mean, right?
Season 3, yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And I think David Thewlis, again, one of the reasons you watch the show, probably the main reason I watch it, why I like it so much, is because the acting. The main 3, David Thewlis, Thomas Brodie-Sangster, and Maya Mitchell, they all bring it. And honestly,
Fanny this year got a lot of like people liked her.
Yeah. I did like how she had more of a role in the.
She wasn't just
series.
like a Newsom.
Again,
whatever.
That Phineas storyline where she ends up killing him was just so hilarious to me. But I think that that's the main reason you watch it. I also like the stakes in it. The hospital being overrun this season, I thought really did help heighten the stakes. There's so much happening that I was rarely ever bored. However, sometimes I was trying to figure out what exactly was going on. Also, with the medical drama, dark comedy, romance, heist-like mechanics, it doesn't feel like there's ever any tonal whiplash. I think that they balance it all out pretty
I didn't see the belly button scene, but I didn't like the medicine. I didn't like how they were just cherry picking whatever they want and then trying to get the credit for saying, oh, this is 100% based off history. However, big fandom, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes for the first season. The second season, a little bit of a tick down, I think, from just the overall impression. However, people still liked it. The Guardian said 3 out of 5 for the second season. The Artful Dodger review, buckle up, bozos. TV's most breathless Dickens drama is back. So
wow.
Yeah.
There were some parts of the plot that seemed futile. There was a stealing plutonium subplot that happened in episode 4 that didn't really seem like it went anywhere. Like I said, Dodge and Bell had like 4 different times they could have been together.
One thing you haven't mentioned is the rock songs. Like, because it's kind of like Dickinson in that way, where it's Hollywood Reporter said that it's bright and poppy, punky based on the regular episode opening scene set to a hard-driving modern rock song.
The soundtrack is great, and I do like how the Joker and the Thief, which was used in the finale here as well, is kind of the story's theme, even though we don't hear it all
I don't think we'll be hearing it in the Grey House, which takes place in the 1860s during the Civil War. So around the same time, but like in America, I don't think that they're going to be taking that.
So overall, I would compare it to Bridgerton also, maybe Outlander if you like it. I also had The Nick, as we talked about. I will be giving the second season, I'll be going actually a little bit high, and I'll be giving it an 8 out of 10 because it's just a show that I think is very easy to enjoy.
It's higher than I thought you'd give it, but 8 out of 10. I would have compared it to A Young Doctor's Notebook. However, A Young Doctor's Notebook with Daniel Radcliffe and Daniel Radcliffe, right?
Daniel Radcliffe
and John Hamm. That was so gross. Like, it wasn't cholera, it was like syphilis they were dealing with. They were all on drugs. It was Russia in the but that's a fun show too. Outer Banks, in a way, with the relationship of the 2 main leads, it kind of reminded me of that.
There's not as much action as I would maybe think when I see the poster for it and the name The Artful Dodger and all the people in it.
You would think that he would be the one conducting all like this thrifty crimes, and he's not. He's a good guy.
No, yeah, he's just. It's really Fagin that ropes him into this stuff.
It should be Dr. Artful Dodger. All right, no. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode, unless you have anything else you want to add.
Bye.
All right, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.